Fire and water fall in love. This is the best romance Disney has ever made. Do opposites attract, or do they only bring pain? A couple of immigrants leaves their homeland, the land of fire, and arrives in Element City, a place inhabited by the other three elements: water, air, and earth. Bernie and Cinder come in search of a better life, and this city seems like the perfect place to find it, but they're not exactly welcomed with open arms. The other elements keep their distance from fire people, fearing they're dangerous because they could set the city ablaze. Element City is a clear metaphor for New York City, a melting pot of immigrants from every corner of the world. But just like in real life, immigrants here face prejudice. Fire people are discriminated against simply because they're seen as a threat. And what's interesting is that to some degree they are. Fire can burn earth and boil water, so the fear isn't entirely irrational. But while that fear may have some logic behind it, it completely ignores the fact that fire people can control their abilities. They aren't inherently destructive. What's more, those same traits that others fear could actually be incredibly useful if given the chance. If you think about it, many behaviors or traits can be good or bad, depending on the context. Interestingly, the relationship between fire and water goes both ways. Water can extinguish fire just as easily as fire can evaporate water. But since water was already established in the city, it's water that sets the rules and controls the social narrative. So who does fire represent in our world, and who does water represent? Faced with rejection, Bernie and Cinder find an abandoned building and make it their home. That's where their first and only daughter, Ember, is born. Bernie teaches Ember all the traditions of fire culture, most importantly, the blue flame, which he brought from their homeland. It's a sacred, almost religious symbol that gives fire people their strength and identity. Together, they build their business, a convenience store called The Fireplace, the pride and joy of Bernie's life. It's his dream come true and the symbol of the better life he hoped to give his daughter. He tells Ember that she'll inherit the store when she's ready, and she's proud and excited to follow in his footsteps. Ember becomes her father's right hand. She loves helping around the shop and joining him for deliveries. Over time, more fire people settle around the fireplace, and the area becomes known as Firetown. The one unbreakable rule: the elements don't mix, especially fire and water. That could be deadly. As Bernie grows older, Ember starts taking on more responsibilities in the store, but she struggles to control her temper, especially when dealing with difficult customers. She frequently loses her patience, causing flames to burst out and damage the store or scare off customers. Bernie sees this and gently tries to guide her. He encourages her to breathe, to connect with people rather than explode. Ember is a perfectionist. She doesn't want to let her father down, but keeping her cool seems almost impossible. She keeps messing up. Here we see that Bernie is a family man, noble, hardworking, and calm. He proves that fire people can absolutely live balanced, peaceful lives and master their temper. His fiery nature has been shaped and refined by wisdom and experience, breaking the stereotype that fire people are volatile and dangerous. Ember's struggle with her temper isn't a sign that fire people are inherently destructive. Rather, it reflects the emotional intensity and impulsiveness of youth. While Bernie represents maturity and self-control, Ember symbolizes raw potential, energy that needs guidance, patience, and care to be shaped. This shows us something important. Fire people, like any group, can't be reduced to a single image or stereotype. Prejudices are overly simplistic and unfair. The other elements, driven by fear and ignorance, fail to see the complexity and richness within fire culture. They wrongly assume that all fire people are dangerous and unstable, without recognizing that, like Bernie, many live honest, balanced lives. One day, Bernie leaves Ember in charge of the annual Red Dot sale. He tells her that if she can get through the day without losing her temper, he'll know she's ready to run the shop. Ember promises not to disappoint him, but the customers quickly begin testing her patience. One after another, it becomes overwhelming. Ember fights to stay calm, but she's about to explode. She runs down to the basement to blow off steam, literally, and in doing so, bursts one of the pipes. Water gushes into the room. Ember manages to shut off the valve, but from the puddle of water emerges Wade Ripple, a water person. Wade notices a family photo of Ember and gets emotional. He's incredibly sensitive. When Ember demands to know what he's doing there, he explains he was chasing a plumbing leak and somehow got sucked into her basement. Choked up, Wade tells her he's a city inspector, and unfortunately, he has to fine her. Worse, he'll have to order the store closed because the pipes Bernie installed himself are in terrible shape. Ember is distraught. She doesn't want to see her father's dream shut down or let him down. She tries to stop Wade from reporting it, but he slips away. She chases after him, desperate to stop him from filing the report, but she's too late. Ember and Wade are about to take us on a journey full of meaning and symbolism. Historically, fire and water have always been seen as opposites, two fundamental forces locked in conflict. Fire often represents passion, intensity, anger, transformation, and destruction. Water represents calmness, adaptability, gentleness, healing, and emotional depth. Ember and Wade's personalities mirror these traits. That doesn't mean they stand for all fire and water people, but the story uses them to explore the dynamic between two opposing forces. Their relationship works on 3 levels: personal, emotional, and cultural. When Ember returns home, she finds the store closed and her parents fixing the pipes. They tell her not to worry. They've been through tough times before, and will get through this one too. Then they share with her the story of why they left the land of fire. They loved it there, but a massive storm destroyed everything. Bernie realized they had to leave if they wanted a better life, especially since Cinder was pregnant with Ember. Bernie took a small flame from the sacred blue fire, left his family behind, and made his way to Element City. It was the last time he ever saw his father, all for the dream of a better life and greater opportunities for his daughter. Ember listens to her parents and thinks about the imminent closure of the store, but she promises them that nothing will happen to the shop or to the blue flame. The next day, Ember heads into the city to talk to Wade's boss, but Gale is at the stadium, cheering on her favorite team, the Windbreakers. Ember tries to explain the situation, but Gale is clearly distracted and doesn't want to talk business during the game. As they argue, Ember mocks the players, which only angers Gale. Wade intervenes just as the Windbreakers are losing because of a player named Lutz, whose poor performance earns him boos from the crowd. But Wade empathizes with Lutz and stands up to cheer for him, encouraging everyone else to do the same. It feels a little silly at first, but soon the entire stadium is cheering. Lutz sees this, gets inspired, and starts playing incredibly well. Ember watches Wade with admiration, struck by his deep empathy. The Windbreakers win, and Gale, now in a good mood, agrees to Wade's suggestion. This is the first time Ember has truly connected with someone from the water element. She's not used to leaving Firetown, having grown up with the belief that elements shouldn't mix. So her interaction with Wade is a step into unknown territory, emotionally and culturally. As seen in her conversation with Gale, Ember tends to be more impulsive, direct, practical, and even a bit aggressive, focused solely on her own goals. She has embraced these traits, believing they're the right way to approach difficult decisions. But now she's faced with Wade, who is deeply empathetic, emotionally open, and naturally connects with others, even strangers. His different way of navigating life makes Ember realize that maybe her confrontational, get-things-done approach isn't always the most effective. She begins to understand that strength isn't only about assertiveness, it can also lie in compassion and empathy. Their dynamic, beyond being a personality clash, represents a deeper conflict between life philosophies. And Ember is smart enough to admire Wade for his differences, and to start questioning her own approach. Wade makes a plan to trace the source of the leak back to Ember's home and call in a city crew to fix it before Friday. If the repairs are done in time, the fines will be waived and the store won't have to close. To trace the leak, they climb to the roof of Ember's house and build a hot air balloon to survey the area from above. They find puddles along the canal and follow them to a damaged floodgate. While they're in the air, Ember spots Central Station and is reminded of a memory. She tells Wade that when she was little, her father once brought her there to see a vivia, a flower that can grow in any environment, even fire. She had always wanted to see one, but a security guard didn't let them in, citing the danger of her fire. Now, years later, the station is flooded and Ember lost her only chance to see a vivia. Wade listens closely and tears well up in his eyes. He tells her he can imagine how scared and heartbroken she must have felt, and she nods. Ember then asks Wade how he manages to be so empathetic and connect so easily with people like he did at the stadium. She says she struggles to connect with customers. Her temper gets in the way, but Wade tells her that he doesn't see her temper as a bad thing. To him, irritation is simply a part of ourselves trying to express something we're not ready to face yet. But Ember, someone with a short fuse, dismisses this idea as nonsense. Let's pause here to consider the discrimination Ember and Bernie face. These aren't just isolated personal experiences, they're part of a larger system of ongoing prejudice and rejection, which eventually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's how it works. When the dominant group, let's call them the oppressors, encounters a group that's different, they often respond with fear of the unknown. They act defensively and with condescension. Soon, negative stereotypes and prejudices begin to circulate about the different group, in this case, the fire people like Ember and Bernie. These stereotypes turn into discriminatory behaviors and policies that further isolate and marginalize the oppressed group. In turn, the oppressed often develop a defensive attitude, sometimes even resentment. They become more sensitive to how they're treated, more reactive, and more prone to anger. This defensiveness is a natural response to a hostile environment. But ironically, these reactions, caused by the original prejudice, end up reinforcing the oppressor's beliefs. For example, if Ember reacts angrily to an injustice or discrimination, it may be seen as proof of the stereotype that fire people are volatile or dangerous. The cycle repeats and deepens the divide. Had the dominant group treated fire people with kindness and respect from the beginning, there might never have been a need for defensiveness or hostility. This is why Ember and Wade's interactions are so powerful. They show the importance of breaking that cycle of fear and alienation and replacing it with understanding and empathy. It's also worth pausing to reflect on Wade's view of anger. He's not someone who gets angry easily, but he doesn't see anger as something negative. In fact, he understands its purpose. Philosopher Martha Nussbaum says that anger is simply our body's way of signaling that something unfair has happened. Similarly, psychologist Paul Ekman says anger is a biological response that helps protect us from abuse, exploitation, or harm. When we feel angry, something's wrong and we need to fix it. So maybe anger shouldn't be seen as something bad, but rather as a necessary and, even in some cases, a positive emotion. It's no coincidence that fire people, the oppressed group in this story, are the ones most prone to anger. After all, they deal with daily injustice, discrimination, and alienation. Naturally, they feel a need to protect themselves and fight back. That's why Wade's definition of anger is so insightful. It's just a part of us trying to express something we're not ready to face. Something that makes us uncomfortable, something we need to confront and change, but we avoid it out of fear. When they reach the source of the leak, they discover that the floodgates are broken. Wade explains that these gates are supposed to hold back the canal when a ship passes through, but just then, a boat comes by and causes the area to flood. They rush to take cover, but soon realize the water is heading toward Firetown, where even a small flood could be deadly. Ember immediately takes charge, handing Wade sandbags to seal the breach. He says the fix should hold long enough for the city's maintenance crew to make the permanent repairs before Friday. With the problem resolved, Ember and Wade technically have no reason to see each other again, but Wade invites Ember to spend the afternoon with him the next day. She knows this would be a terrible idea in her father's eyes, but she can't help smiling at the invitation. She's torn about whether to go or not, but eventually decides to meet Wade in the city. When he sees her arrive, Wade tears up with emotion. He wears his heart on his sleeve. They go to the movies and take photos together. Later, they climb to the top of a building where Ember impresses a group of kids with her fiery tricks, and Wade watches her with admiration. As they begin to spend more time together, Ember realizes that she truly can live in the city with the other elements. She doesn't have to stay confined to Firetown. Her prejudices and assumptions were wrong. They enjoy each other's company and start to fall in love, but Ember worries about the physical impossibility of touching. If they ever did, it could end in disaster for one or both of them. Over time, Ember learns to control her temper with customers at the shop. She thinks of Wade and what he said, and gradually calms herself more and more. Her parents notice the change and feel proud of her. Days later, the sandbags break. Water leaks again, and a pipe bursts right inside the store. Just then, a delivery man arrives with flowers for Ember, and she notices Wade is inside the vase water, visiting her. He explains the sandbags didn't hold. That's when Bernie walks in and finds them together. Remembering the history of rejection from water people and aware of the real danger water poses to their kind, Bernie reacts by kicking Wade out of the store and forbidding him from ever returning. Later, Ember and Wade meet at the beach to fill more sandbags. She's frustrated, overwhelmed by the pressure of preserving her father's dream and not letting him down. Her light begins to dim. Wade assures her she's a good daughter and doing her very best. He also tells her, "You have a beautiful light," and that light begins to shine again. They watch a sunset together, the moment when the sun appears to touch the water, symbolizing how fire and water can create something beautiful together. Wade notices that Ember's flame turned the sand beneath them into glass. Inspired, she comes up with a brilliant idea to use glass to seal the leak. They return to the broken floodgate, and Ember turns the sand into glass. A boat passes over, and the seal holds. They've done it. Wade calls his boss for final approval. That night, Bernie tells Ember that he sees how much she's grown. More stable, happier, more mature. He feels lucky to have her. Ember smiles, but feels a deep guilt because the issue with the pipes still isn't completely resolved. Still worried about the shop's future, Ember goes with Wade to hear Gail's final decision. While they wait for her call, Wade invites her to his home. Ember meets Wade's family, who are just as sweet and empathetic as he is. They welcome her with open arms. It turns out Wade comes from a wealthy, artistic family with lots of connections, completely different from Ember's reality. When one of them accidentally breaks a pitcher, Ember quickly repairs it, turning the glass into a stunning work of art. They're amazed by her talent, and Wade's mom tells her she could do something incredible with it. Later, they play a game called The Cry-Off, where the goal is to hold back tears. But since they're all so sensitive, everyone loses quickly. When it's Wade and Ember's turn, she claims she'll win because she's never cried in her life. Wade starts with a story about a wounded butterfly. No reaction. Then, he tells a tragic love story of a man on his deathbed. Still nothing. Finally, he opens up about his feelings for her. "Ember, when I met you, I honestly thought I was drowning, but this light inside you, it's made me feel alive. And all I want now is to be near you, just the two of us." His words hit Ember deeply. She pictures a life with him, but then remembers the elemental barrier between them. They may love each other, but being together is impossible. A single tear falls down her fiery cheek. Gail calls. The tempered glass is strong enough to fix the leak, and the fines are officially canceled. They celebrate, but they still can't hug. After dinner, Wade's mother tells Ember she's contacted a friend who runs the best glass company in the world, and they'd love to have Ember as an apprentice. Ember thanks her, but as soon as she turns around, she's fuming. She tries to walk away from Wade, but he won't let her escape the conversation. Finally, she breaks down and admits he was right. Her anger is just a part of herself trying to tell her something she hasn't been ready to face, that running her father's shop isn't her dream. But she doesn't know what her dream is either. She's never even allowed herself to ask that question. She feels she owes her parents everything. They gave up their lives for her, and the only way to repay such a huge sacrifice is by sacrificing her own. She can't break her father's heart after all he's done for her. Just then, her mother Cinder walks in and finds them together. Furious to see her daughter with a water boy, she demands answers. Ember tries to say Wade is just a friend, but Cinder insists she can smell the love between them. She takes them inside to perform a compatibility ritual. She lights her own flame to test the connection by observing the smoke created when their flames intertwine. But since Wade is made of water, he can't produce a flame. Cinder tells Ember this proves their love is impossible, but Wade gets an idea. He stands in front of Ember and uses himself as a lens to concentrate her light. Her flame passes through him and lights the test flame. The smoke rises and dances around them, indicating that they are, in fact, compatible. Cinder is speechless. This scene is incredibly symbolic. Wade can't ignite the flame himself. He's water. If water can't light fire, how could he prove his love? It seems like a fundamental incompatibility. But what Wade can do is channel Ember's light. He may not create fire the way she does, but he enhances hers. Their love isn't based on similarities. It's built on how they complement and support one another. Wade helps Ember channel her fire, find control, and steady herself. He calms her volatility. And Ember, in turn, gives light to Wade. When her light passes through him, we see how her presence illuminates his life. Just as he said earlier that he felt like he was drowning, but she made him feel alive. Sometimes, the people we love don't just give us tools to grow. They give us their time, presence, and affection, and often, that's more than enough. Finally, we see a moment when Ember sees through Wade and her perspective shifts. Thanks to his influence, Ember learns to see the world in a new way, more compassionate, more gentle. Back on the beach, when her inner light began to dim due to sadness, Wade told her to be kinder to herself, and her light began to shine again. Wade gives her a new perspective, softer, more loving, and more forgiving. Their relationship reminds us that personality differences don't have to be obstacles to love. Incompatibility will always exist. I don't think it's about finding someone with whom we're 100% compatible, because that kind of relationship wouldn't offer us much room to grow. Progress and personal growth come from conflict, and conflict naturally arises from difference. Maybe that's why people often say opposites attract, because sometimes one person has what the other is missing, and it's precisely in that clash of differences that a richer harmony and balance can emerge. Maybe it's not about finding another version of ourselves, a perfect match, but learning to make our incompatibilities compatible. Maybe the real goal isn't to find perfect compatibility, but to work together to transform our differences into something that contributes to deeper harmony. At that moment, Bernie appears. They quickly rush Wade out of the store so Bernie won't see him. Bernie tells his daughter he has news that just can't wait. He's retiring in 2 days, and Ember will finally take over the shop. Her dream is about to come true. He has a gift for her, but first, he explains how much this all means to him. He says, "When I left Fireland, I made the back sew to my father, a deep bow that in our culture is the highest sign of respect. But my father didn't bow back. He didn't give me his blessing. He said that if we left Fireland, we could never forget our fire roots. That burden still weighs on me. That's why, daughter, I want you to know you have my blessing every day you walk into this place." With that, Bernie shows her the gift, a new sign that reads Ember's Fireplace. He wants to hang it up for the grand reopening celebration. After hearing everything her parents endured to give her a better life, Ember feels she can't allow herself to hurt her father's feelings. The next day, Ember goes to see Wade to break things off, but Wade doesn't give up so easily. He tells her there's something he has to show her first. He takes her to Central Station, the one she had told him about, the place where the Vivias grow, though now it's completely flooded. When they arrive, Gale tears down the sign that once barred fire people from entering. There, they find Gale, who creates a protective bubble Ember can enter safely. She hesitates, unsure whether to take the risk, but Wade encourages her. "They said you couldn't go in, so why are you letting someone else decide what you can and can't do with your life?" Inspired by his words, Ember steps into the bubble. Wade guides her through the flooded station, and at last, they reach the great Vivia tree. Ember's face lights up with wonder. She never thought she'd actually see the flowers, and now she realizes they glow when lit by her own fire. But then they realize the air bubble is running out. Wade rushes toward the exit. They make it out just in time, and Ember jumps for joy, overwhelmed by the moment. It's so special that Wade suggests they try holding hands. The idea of water and fire touching seems too dangerous to Ember, so she pulls back. But Wade, always the optimist, urges her to try. If it's a disaster, he says, then we'll know this was never going to work. Ember hesitates, but finally, she carefully reaches out, and nothing bad happens. They hold hands, then both hands, their fingers interlace, and their eyes fill with wonder at what this means. Ember leans against his chest, and together they begin to dance under the moonlight. Wade says, "I'm so lucky." But those words make Ember think of her father. She feels guilty, ashamed of doing something that would disappoint him. She pulls away, saying she needs to return to the store, to where she belongs. Wade tries to reason with her, urging her to talk to her father about her own dreams. But Ember gets angry. "You don't get to judge me. You have no idea what it's like to have parents who gave up everything for you." She boards the train and tells Wade he'll never understand. This is the end of their story. The next day, everyone gathers in front of the store to celebrate the grand reopening. Bernie announces his retirement and hands Ember the blue flame as a symbol of passing on the family legacy. Ember hesitates before taking it, and that's when Wade appears. He interrupts the ceremony and tells Ember there are countless reasons why they shouldn't be together, but one reason why they should. They touched. The crowd gasps. Wade explains that their chemical makeup has changed. They're not the same as they were before. I really love this metaphor about relationships. It's so accurate. When you share a deep emotional bond with someone, you're not the same person anymore. Your chemistry changes. Wade confesses his love in front of everyone. "I love you, Ember Lumen, and I'm almost sure you love me too." Bernie interrupts, furious. He feels betrayed. Ember, under pressure, tells Wade, "You're wrong. I don't love you." Her mother hears this and insists she's mistaken, reminding her that the compatibility ritual showed they are true love. But Ember ignores her and tells Wade to leave, insisting again that she doesn't love him. Wade is heartbroken and walks away. Bernie turns to Ember, angry, and tells her she's broken his trust. He declares he won't retire after all. She's not ready to run the store. This shatters Ember. She genuinely wants to be the daughter her parents deserve. She runs off into the city to think, trying to forget her feelings for Wade, but she can't. Then she witnesses the glass barrier holding back the water finally give way. The water floods into the canal, heading straight for Firetown. Ember races home, terrified for her parents' safety. Meanwhile, Wade senses something is wrong in Firetown and grows worried for Ember. Ember warns the townspeople of the flood. Her parents manage to reach higher ground just in time, but Ember runs toward the shop to save the blue flame, desperate to keep it from being extinguished. Just as the door is about to burst open and flood everything, Wade arrives to help. She's shocked to see him, especially after everything she said. Her face says it all. She truly does love him. Ember tries to protect the blue flame by building a glass barrier around it, but the waves crash through it. Wade urges her to leave, but she refuses. "The blue flame is my father's whole life. I can't let it go out." She's swept away and ends up trapped in a room. Just then, Wade appears. He miraculously managed to place the blue flame inside a lantern just in time. As the water begins to flood the room, Ember quickly seals the cracks to stop more water from coming in. But being in a room with fire causes Wade to begin evaporating. They try to escape through the roof, but the exit is blocked. Ember attempts to break down the wall blocking the door, but Wade stops her. He knows that if the water comes in, it would extinguish Ember forever. Ember collapses. She doesn't know what to do. Wade takes her hand and gently says, "Ember, I have no regrets. You gave me something people search their whole lives for." She breaks down in tears. "But I can't exist in a world without you. I'm sorry I didn't say it before. I love you." He looks at her with joy and love, and as he embraces her, her light shines through him, filling the entire room with radiant light. Hours pass. The flood is under control. The Lumen family searches for Ember. When they break down the wall that had trapped the room, they find her kneeling, completely devastated. She says, "Wade is gone. He saved me." Her mother comes to comfort her, but Ember rises to her feet. Holding the blue flame in her hands, she finally finds the courage to tell her father that she doesn't want to run the shop. Tears in her eyes, she says the words she feared would break his heart. "I'm sorry. I'm a bad daughter." Bernie takes the blue flame, sets it aside, and tells her, "Ember, the shop was never the dream. You were. You've always been my dream." And her face lights up. Bernie's response reveals the depth of his unconditional love. Maybe he had been indirectly pressuring her to take over the store because he thought it was a wonderful idea, but his intention was never to force her to do something she didn't want to do. That's what I love about Bernie. Unlike other stories where parents try to control their children's futures, here it's Ember who perceives that pressure because they never really talked about it. Bernie just wants what's best for her. He thought that would be the shop, but he's ready to support whatever path she chooses. When he says Ember was always the dream, not the shop, he frees her from the weight of perceived expectations. And this allows Ember to understand that her parents' love and sacrifices were not transactions to be repaid with a specific life or career. They were gifts given freely for her happiness. Many children grow up feeling like they owe their parents something. But maybe what we owe them isn't a specific path. It's our gratitude and the promise that we'll use what they gave us in ways that make us happy and whole. That night, as everyone processes what just happened, a soft sound is heard, a drip from the ceiling. Ember starts saying sad things about a wounded butterfly, then a dying man's lost love. And with every word, more drops fall. It's Wade. He's still there. They can still bring him back. Everyone starts saying things that tug at the heart until finally, Wade returns. Ember runs to him and hugs him tightly. They look into each other's eyes and share a kiss, one that defies everything they thought was impossible. Months later, Firetown has recovered from the flood. The shop has reopened, this time welcoming elements of all kinds. Bernie passes the store on to a friendly couple, and he and Cinder enjoy their well-earned retirement. Ember watches her father in the store and smiles. Later, she and Wade are ready to board a boat. She's accepted the glassmaking internship, and Wade is coming with her. Wade's mother and Ember's parents are there to see them off. Bernie encourages his daughter to explore the world, promising that they'll be there, waiting whenever she wants to return. As Ember and Wade walk toward the boat, she stops. She places her suitcase down and performs the backso, the deep bow, the highest sign of respect in their culture. Her father watches her and returns the bow. In that moment, father and daughter show each other their full respect and love. Ember picks up her suitcase and boards the ship with Wade, ready for their next adventure. To me, one of the central themes of this film is the bittersweet beauty of letting go, of our homeland, our past, our expectations. It's about taking everything our roots gave us and stepping into new adventures, seeking a fuller life. Of course, leaving our past behind is painful, but we can find new homes in our future. Just as Ember's parents once took a leap that meant leaving their own parents behind, now Ember and Wade are starting their own journey. They're not rejecting their roots, they're honoring them by carrying them forward. She doesn't reject her father's shop, she treasures it. If not for that store, she wouldn't have had the freedom to choose a new path. Before leaving, Ember bows to her father. It's a way to honor the past, the lessons, and the unconditional love he gave her. And Bernie's bow in return means everything. His own father never bowed back, but he refuses to do the same to his daughter. He loves her, and he understands her need to seek her own path, because he once did too. With that gesture, Bernie frees Ember from the need to live for others' expectations. He gives her his blessing to become her own person. In doing so, Bernie becomes the father he always wished he'd had, breaking the cycle of limitation he once faced. And his greatest reward is the genuine love and admiration of his daughter, a true testament to the incredible job he's done as her father.